Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven, and this is the Storytime channel. Quickly before we get into the stories, we have a new channel called Storytime where I'm covering some more spooky boards. So if that sounds like something you'd like, why not check it out after this video? Link is in the description. But today we have some malicious compliance stories, and our first story of the day is by Taco Jesus Jr. Hold me back 1 year in high school over a single gym credit? How about I go to college a year early instead? I hated gym class, not because of the physical activity, I was in hockey and football, but the fact that there wasn't enough time to shower before the bell, so you stink to high heaven for the rest of the day. So I would walk the track with all the girls. Pissed off my coach is something awful, so they flunk me in my junior year and won't let me double up my senior year, so I would have to stay back. I had already picked out my college and was accepted. Tech school. Just had to finish my senior year. So I figured I could work out something with the guidance counselor and the coach. Nope, neither would budge. Okay, I walk away thinking I'm screwed and have to basically take one class my second senior year. Then it dawns on me, can I just start going to college now? Are there other alternatives? So I call my college admissions and college guidance counselor, explain my situation and what other options are available. Since this is a non-traditional college, no SATs, you can start without a diploma. The caveat is you must have one or equivalent to get your diploma. The state I'm from, they don't distinguish between the two, so it won't be an issue later on. So I called another meeting, hoping the high school admin would change their minds. No joy, they stuck to their guns. Thinking they had me cornered, I stood up and said, well, I'm just going to have to drop out then. I can't see missing a year of college to just do gym class. The coach thinks he's all cute and is, you can't go to college without a diploma. I relay what the tech school admin/guidance told me of their policy on this. Faces dropped. It said into the guidance counselor that a dropout looks bad on her and the school, small school, when the state audits. She starts backpedaling and I wasn't hearing any of it. Later on that night, the principal and vice principal called to talk. I wasn't interested. I was all excited about starting classes in the fall. If you were faced with having to take another year of high school just to get your diploma, or dropping out so you could go straight to tech school, which option would you personally take? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Jungkook's Lesbian. Teacher told me to stop sounding smart. This happened in my 10th grade science class in high school. Basically, I don't remember what we were discussing, but my teacher asked a question and I raised my hand to answer. I don't remember what word I used, but I used a word in my answer that was not that common. I was not trying to sound smart. In fact, this word was semi-common in my vocabulary. I specifically remember using that word because it was the most accurate word. There was no other simpler synonym that would be as accurate. From what I remember, it wasn't even a complicated word. Think like provisional or incentivize. Anyways, my teacher decided that I was deliberately trying to sound smart to show off and basically talked for like 10 minutes about how he can tell when you're BSing to sound smart and how it doesn't show him anything except that you have an inflated ego. He also went on to say that students who try to sound smart usually get the worst marks, even though I literally had a 95 in his class at that point. Normally a good message, but I literally was not trying to sound smart, and it was freaking mortifying having to listen to your teacher explain to the entire class that he thinks that you think you're better than everyone. This teacher was pretty old too and was known for having some pretty conservative views, so I'm convinced he wouldn't have done the same thing if I was a guy. Anyways, there I am, sat in class, absolutely embarrassed but also furious. I'm thinking of how to get back at him. We move on to the next topic. We're talking about physics, and he asks a question where the answer is obviously refraction. He was using a clear prism and a light to demonstrate this. I raise my hand to answer the question. He picks me because I'm the only one with my hand up, and I answer something like, well, Mr. Sir, it does the rainbow thing. He gets a weird look on his face, but then realizes what I'm trying to do. He laughs then, embarrassed, and says something like, okay, you can sound a little bit smart. It felt good in the moment, but I know it didn't do anything to change his views long term. Freak you, Mr. Sir. You know who you are. You made me feel like crap just for being a smart girl. Shouldn't you encourage people to try to sound smart? Isn't that the whole point of teaching people, having people be your students? Trying to teach them to be as smart as they can possibly be. Why put somebody down for trying to sound smart? Especially just because they're female. That's just disappointing to hear. This next story is by Dars167, paying the final balance for my student loan, or so I thought. This was back in the late 90s before payments could be made via websites, so all payments had to be made by check and mailed into the loan company. I know, the dark ages. I had finally progressed to the point where I was able to make my final payment on my college student loans. The way this was supposed to work is that I was supposed to call the loan company to receive my final payoff amount, and then send that amount in via check. They said that I would receive my final papers within 30 days showing the loan had been paid in full. I wrote out the check for the exact amount that they gave me and promptly mailed it in. After 30 days, I was quite pleased to see an envelope in the mail from the loan company. However, instead of the paid in full notice, there was a bill for an additional amount owed. Apparently, I still had a balance of 5 cents. Here is where the malicious compliance comes in. Instead of calling them up and begging them to forgive the remaining balance, I decided to send in the payment coupon with a dime. Yes, double what I was owed, taped to it. I wrote a note stating that I hope this covers the remaining balance. Did I mention that payment coupon came with a prepaid return envelope? They paid the postage for this. I received the final papers about 2 weeks later. I guess if it was some kind of automated system, maybe it would just happen automatically. If there was some accountant or something that was like, yeah, they're 5 cents short, we need to send out a reminder, it does seem a little ridiculous that they weren't able to forgive a 5-cent balance. This next story is by Gary B. Watts, got my employer to loosen their dress code. I worked for a medical insurance company with a shield of blue as my first real job after college. They had a 1950s dress code, such as women having to wear pantyhose and skirts or dresses. Men had to wear slacks, not jeans. Men's dress code also said dress shirt with tie and jacket or sweater. I wore bow ties just to be different, but got a talking to by my boss, who was by-the-book ex-military. So the next day, I came in wearing slacks and a light sweater. I didn't have to wait more than a half hour before I got called into the office and the yelling starts. I just stand there until he finally takes a breath and I tell him I'd like to see the dress code. He gets pissed off and sends me to HR. I have a long talk to HR and I tell them to read me the dress code. They say they're going to write me up. I tell them they have that right, but I will contact the Department of Labor and report them. I point out the comma, dress shirt with tie and jacket, or sweater. They give me some BS about that not being what it means. They give me a warning. I return to work and write a letter to the Department of Labor after calling them. I was also in the clerical union and gave them a call. I continued to wear light sweaters every day, get sent to HR for a warning that turned into being written up, then threats to be fired. One note, I was not in a job that had any face-to-face dealings with the public, so only my coworkers saw how I was dressed. The union got involved with the state and meetings were held. During this time, I was constantly getting stink eye from my boss, who was not allowed to discipline me without a union rep present. In the end, the old school dress code was thrown out and replaced with business casual. I'm glad most places are transitioning to something like this, but basically I feel like if you're working in a not public-facing environment, you should be allowed to dress business casual. There's very few people who want to get all dressed up to the nines just so they can stand around other people all dressed up to the nines for no reason. And our final story of the day is by Michigan Kerr. You can't just give away coffee. I worked as a shift night manager at a local chain pizzeria for some time in my college years. I was hired by Owen, the franchise owner. My store GM was Jay, but he spent most of his time at our new store. There were 2 other managers, Amy, who was day shift manager, and Bill, who was not officially a manager, but worked on Amy and my days off as the shift manager. This store was probably the most crime-ridden place I've ever worked. They actually had a second drawer just in case you got robbed. My first solo night, my driver was stabbed during a robbery while getting into his car. Sometime during my first month, the store both got robbed and was broken into. Now, we were only a few blocks from the county jail and the sheriff's office, state police post, EMS garage, and right across the street from a firehouse, but that didn't seem to discourage those looking for a quick buck. So shortly after the store getting robbed, I found an old urn-style coffee maker in storage and got an idea. The next day on my way to work, I stopped at the local service supply store, picked up some coffee cups with lids and a little dry erase board. Mind you, I didn't have purchasing abilities yet, just picked it up out of my own pocket. I got to work, set it all up, and wrote on the sign, "Police, Fire, EMS, help yourself." The first couple days had no takers, but I did sell a couple cups for a few cents. It might have been a week when someone broke into one of the other businesses in the strip mall. Of course, the officers came in asking if we'd seen anything, then helped themselves to a cup of coffee. From then on, we almost always had at least one officer either in the store or parked in the lot out front. And suddenly, we no longer had a bunch of crime at the store. Not only that, but they were coming in ordering food, sales across the board shot up. It was a win-win in my book. Amy and Bill had both adopted the free coffee policy, and we all took turns restocking the coffee supply since Jay barely added anything extra to the automatic order as it was. Third month woes, we had a store meeting every month. I got in first, fired up the urn, and waited as Amy, Bill, and Jay trickled in for the meeting. Amy, Bill, and I all had a cup of coffee as Jay went through usuals, and then laid into us on the coffee. "We're not giving away any more of my coffee." Amy, Bill, and I looked at each other. We've been buying the coffee in cups. It's no loss to you when sales are up. "We're not a coffee shop and it costs me $1 for every cup. You can't give away $1 all the time." Me knowing full well it was closer to a dime per cup. "Once again, you're not buying the coffee. Here's the receipt with my card on it." This went back and forth a couple rounds. Amy and Bill tapped out when Owen walked in. Owen wanted to start some type of club card program like buy a card, then 5 pizzas, get a free pizza. This is when it hit me. I'd combined club card and coffee. As soon as the meeting was over, I ran to the back, quickly designed a punch card. I put both punch cards and coffee into the point of sale system. From that day on, I sold 2 club cards. The first aforementioned pizza club, the other a coffee club. 12 coffees for $1. I also put up a Buy a Hero a Coffee Club cup, where customers could drop $1 in for the next fire, EMS, or police officer to get a card, and it was very popular. The best part was being in the point of sale, coffee got automatically placed on the order. No need to ask Jay to approve something extra, and we could show Jay how much each cup actually cost. The heroes still got free coffee, along with a lot more customers. Jay went from thinking he was losing money on coffee to actually losing money on coffee. Owen didn't care because club cards were selling. We did so well, the rest of our stores had to start carrying coffee as well. I'm not really sure why Jay would be so inherently against a program that was obviously making them money, or at least not losing them any money because it was coming out of OP and other people's pockets. Perhaps Jay was actually skimming some of the money with all the robberies going on and wasn't getting caught? Why else would they be so against something that so inherently improved the quality of the store? Not only in sales, but also in security. Definitely seems a little bit odd. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.